Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. 8th of July. Yep, that's 8th of July. You know, it's the whole thing about remembering what day it is. It's so hard for me. I've gone my whole life, never had to remember what day it is. And for this short 1 second thing, I got to know what day it is. I always have to look. Drives me crazy. Well, let me tell you what. We got a slow day ahead of us. So let's come over to the charts. I'll show you what's going on. Yesterday was really where it's interesting. I want to show you here on the footprint chart because we have this drop below 3155. You notice here before that, the biggest distributions for the hour, and just remember, I have my footprint aggregated by handle, not by tick. So, for a handle, 10,000 for a handle, that's starting to get into big numbers. 16,000 is a lot, right? 16, 20,000, that's about the most that you tend to see. So you can see here, most of the day actually pretty quiet yesterday. 10,000 there. And then when we got below the 3155, it was like, look, 12,000, every one of these prices. It's just all of a sudden crazy volume. And then eventually it did break. There was a huge market on close imbalance and everybody had to sell and puke into the close. So it looks like probably a lot of people bought into this and had to drop it lower. Okay, now since then, we've kind of just been rotating around lower. I'll show you on this chart as well, so you can see they made attempts to go higher, but didn't get very far. Attempts to go lower, they didn't hit any of our volatility targets. Rotating around this. Okay, now the big story though was the bonds. Oh, bonds just took off yesterday. You see there. Whew. Now it's not a new high from the range, but it was a pretty solid move up in the bonds, especially in the 30-year. Here it is in the 10-year. You can see also with this move a little bit of flattening in the twos and tens right there. Knob spread here. Knob spread again. A little bit of flattening. So that whole thing is a little bit concerning because we're flattening like that, especially at these interest rates, that is not a sign of confidence. All right. Where can I learn? Hector says, where can I learn to read that candle chart? That's a really good question. I just read it the same way that I read the DOM. So, but it's nothing too complicated. You just, look at it. How much volume traded at these individual prices in that time period. That's really all it's telling us. So this is nothing too complicated. Don't overcomplicate it. What else? Oil kind of just sideways here still. Gold had a huge move yesterday in new high. So now we're in the 1814, and unlike that last big move in gold that almost immediately came back down, we're actually starting to extend. So gold is now really turning into the mover and shaker. All right, we'll come back over here. Look at currencies. You can see the dollar above 96, kind of bouncing off of 97, a little bit in a range, going sideways. Okay, back over here. When we look at our economic calendar, you can look in here. We've got the oil inventories today. And we do have a 10-year note auction, but this 10-year note auction is basically the only major news, happening today. Fed Bostic speech, I guess that's much later today though. So, Yeah, we have a very, very light news schedule. So today, um, there might not be a whole lot of opportunity. We have to see where how it goes, because remember, when you have these days that are likely to be really quiet because there's no news, every once in a while somebody comes along and says, "Okay, this is when we're going to make our move." They're really sneaky about it, and you end up surprising a lot of people, and you can get these huge trend days. That's how that last really ugly, really, really ugly down move that we got in the E-mini a couple of weeks ago. That's how that, came about. So we should be prepared for the worst, but the probability is that today is going to be a very quiet day. So we can have some fun. Also, we've been talking about our volatility targets here. I don't even have it up yet, but I often show you guys this chart from TradingView, um, where we kind of have targets based on the opening price of the VIX. You can see yesterday we didn't hit any of our targets. We came close on the downside. We bounced right off it. So we made a video about that. That is going to be live in an hour. So in an hour, go check that video out. I get so many questions about this. It's a really, really useful edge. So I figured we should make a video about it to answer all the questions. There's a couple of videos that we need to make to answer questions. So yeah, check that out. And big thanks to Gary Rich. I don't know if he's here yet, but big thanks to Gary Rich for that. All right. Well, man, we are trading some big numbers over here. I think that for the treasuries, we could have some fun here. So let's see. Let's see here. Sunday says, I think I'm going to buy the King Neat B microphone. Well, I've looked at that one and there's some nice things about it. I was going to say again, I think I told you this, but if you want to stream, with it, then we got the, what is it called? The Elgato microphone. Elgato Wave 3 has some features to it that are really impressive if you're going to stream, because it kind of helps you do things like manage the audio on your computer compared to your microphone audio, so that you can have things like the people talking to you on TeamSpeak or whatever it is. You could have, like, maybe you have a news squawk and you don't want your audience to hear the news squawk. This kind of helps you manage those sorts of things. So that's really great. Um, you're saying the King Neat B, so there are some cool things about that, because no, it's a USB mic. This one is a USB mic. I believe the Pro version might have, no, actually I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I don't know. The thing with an XLR mic, just the fact of it being XLR doesn't necessarily make it better, but like the best microphones out there are not designed for computers. And so if you get an XLR, then like we've got this is an XLR mic. This one right here, yeah. The thing that's cool about these, from my understanding, is that they kind of come with a really good like stand and things like that. Let's see here. You were saying Neat Bee? Oh, there's a couple of different ones. I don't know which one is best for you. Uh, See, these, when it comes with like the what do we call it? What do we call it? Yeah, the shock mount. There you go. When it comes with a shock mount and a pop filter, that's really useful. You notice I don't have any kind of shock mount. Um, really because I just don't want my screen to be covered up. So some disadvantages to the microphone that I'm using, but I like it because it looks so cool. It's yeah. Unless that's a good choice unless you want to go for like the more expensive ones like the Shure SM7, is it? That's the king. That's the king of the XLR mics. Dynamic mics, at least. If you want to go for the what do we call it? Condensers, then you want to go for like the Neumanns. But they're really expensive where you can get like a $10,000 microphone. But whew, they're nice. Probably you would never know it over the internet because the compression ruins it, but that's why it's really not worth it to spend more than a few hundred on a microphone if you're just using it for your computer because you know the way that they compress audio data compression and the effect that has on the audio basically makes it so you won't even be able to tell the difference between the mics. The King Bee was a $400 mic, but change of management now sells it for just over $100. Yeah, that's not a bad deal. I don't think it was worth $400 to begin with, but if you're getting a pop filter and the shock mount and everything, and you're just spending just over $100, that's a good deal. Because those two things, depending on which ones you get, could be $100 just by themselves. So I'm wondering here if we should be buying the bonds or not. I mean, look at the 5-year. That 5-year, 5,000 has gone into that. Well, that's something else. Yeah, the level 2 in the 5-year is pretty mixed as well. Oh yeah, you know what? We never turned on the text to speech. We should do that. That would help. Yeah, he's seeing the same thing I am, Igar. That's a huge amount going into the 5-year. Let's go over to Twitter. See if anything interesting is going on. We could maybe have some politics today. Let's see here. Jigsaw's doing a webinar. swing your way to trading success. So we look at swing charts combined with cumulative delta and how the two can be used to trade pullbacks in directional markets, or rather, how to recognize that a counter trend move isn't a reversal. The webinars are a contribution to Wealth Summit. Well, I think I already. That's the 15th. There's one on this Friday, I think, right? There's one this Friday. Oh, there's also what is their names? Let me look it up. Let me look. Financial Juice. Financial Juice apparently is doing a round of funding, and then you can become a founder, and they will have a live stream, live audio, and that I believe is Thursday. So I'm looking forward to that. I tell you what we get from that. Okay, a little bit of a down move there in the E-mini. Let's reset it. White House Virus Task Force to hold press briefing at 11:30 a.m. local time. So that must be 9:30 my time. That's quite a ways away. 3 hours or so. 2 hours. Broke Brothers, oldest U.S. men's retailer, files Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Oh no! That's where I used to buy my nice white shirts. Well, I understand if nobody has to go into work, then you really don't need them, do you? Don't see much else on there. Okay, there's another little tick there. Interesting. Let's check over here. Oh, at 05, there was a significant pull a little ways back that I missed. We might be able to buy the bonds. It definitely, at the moment, looks largely bullish. But you got this thing that's just big, right? It's a pretty big offer for that. Oh, you know what? They took it. If it goes, let's see if we catch backwatch with the experimental. Okay, cool. Okay, so we got the backwash. It's gone back and forth a little bit, so the way the 5-year is holding up there is encouraging. Would like to see the 10-year firm up a little bit on the bid. The key to understanding pandemic policy is that while the people in charge are evil, they're also very stupid. Yeah, I think that policymakers, regardless of whether they're smart or stupid or evil or whatever, are likely to make mistakes in a situation like this. And I really can't think of a single government entity that hasn't made serious mistakes during all this. like one big one here is the way that everybody kind of looked the other way with the virus spread during all of these protests, because I think there's a pretty solid case to say that a lot of the rise that we're seeing right now is due to the protests. Good, the little move there in the E-mini again. Bum, 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 ba-dum. Let's see here. Anything else going on? Lots of stuff from the market year overnight. Market year is a great one. If you don't follow them on Twitter, I would highly recommend it. Okay, good uptick again. Just take a picture here. That was a pretty good take. Now, once again, the bid's not firming up in the 10-year as much as I would like, but I'm really happy with the way this is going so far. Two people who painted over California Black Lives Matter mural charged with hate crime. Man. Yeah, why would you, I really, oh, that was a bad downtick. I don't like the way that the offer closed in over us like that, but let's hold out. Live Squawk. White House Economic Advisor Kudlow, Phase 1 trade deal with China is not dead. And a little jump in the E-mini because Kudlow is out cheerleading. I should change this. I have this little emoji for like a cheerleader. I should change it to have Kudlow's face in it. That would be great. But it did cause a decent up move in the E-mini. Okay. So I was gonna bail there, but it looks like there's some iceberging holding it here. Deadspin writer calls for the Masters of the Golf Tournament to change its racist name. When you hear anyone say the Masters, you think of slave masters in the South. Man. Okay, so they do take it. Takes about 2,000. A bit of back and forth. Plenty of robots, it looks like, willing to trade it back and forth from that. New Jersey governor orders masks to be worn even outdoors. Live update from Zero Hedge. So since trying to clear, we've had another 753 trade. So it looks like the buyers are willing to take plenty there at 05 half. Now finally downtick in the 5 year and a little bit of a stack at 05 half. Wonder if he's going to be saying anything else. Oof. That was a pretty. That wasn't really the kind of a downtick that you want to have. Not at all. He's aiming to puke, make us all puke. For that's the intention of a move like that. You see it. Of course, nobody wants to hit into 04 half because that's like the low, but really, as soon as I saw that the market was reacting to what Kudlow was saying there, I should have just scratched it. I don't know why I didn't. Did not take that seriously enough. Zero Hedges tweeting about the Brooks Brothers bankruptcy. Hey, Federal Reserve and Neil Kashkari, are you going to start buying suits now? Please buy us, save me, save me. Yeah. Wait. Okay, that's weird. Okay, cool. Yeah, it got out. So they're going to try and push it to a new low, I guess. But the thing is even though the E-mini's getting that little bounce, it's not. It's still just a teeny tiny little. I don't know if that's. Why are you calling ZN experimental? So I have different sim accounts. I don't trade live during the summer. I have different sim accounts. So when I'm not really super sure about the trade and I think that the day is likely to be rough or whatever the deal is, um, and I wouldn't be trading it live. That would be the time where I could trade it live, but I choose to trade it sim. So I have two sim accounts to kind of simulate that as well. So today, there's not a lot of news coming in. There's just a 10-year auction. And with the 10-year auction, what we'll tend to see is they'll sell a little bit going into it and then they'll buy in the end. So, that one I think we got screwed by Kudlow. Like I said, I really should have just bailed on it, but I'm doing it on the experimental account because I'm really not incredibly confident about any kind of a trade at the moment because I just don't see a really solid news driver to make me want to make a move. You know what I mean? Like Kudlow being on TV, that really should have been enough to get me out, but he's not going to tell us anything that we don't already know. He's just there to cheerlead and get all the retail traders to buy. So I'm not particularly interested in. So we can wait. I do prefer to buy the bonds on an auction day, but I think we just kind of let them make their little move here, and then maybe if it peters out, we'll take it again. But yeah, another thing is that I just have not been trading. Like the 10-year has been difficult to trade ever since they brought the interest rates to zero. It's just I've been taking way more trades in the E-mini. It's just not very fertile ground anymore because the things that are really pushing the bonds at the moment are things that I'm not in the loop on. It's like maybe somebody is hedging because they're going to be offering corporate bonds, or maybe somebody is hedging because of the auction and they need to sell because of the auction. I don't know. Um, that's not a game that I completely understand, and that I have any kind of insight into who might be doing what. So it's probably it's not a place where I really want to put risk on. So that's why I put the experimentation on it, because it's kind of like, okay, well, we'll try run. If I start having a couple of experimentation trades work out, then maybe I'll say, okay, maybe it is worth taking a risk over here now.
Axe says I agree, been trading ultras in 30s, but 30s give me a hard time. Ultras are okay.
Yeah. Oh man, the ultras are. So we had one or two traders that were trading on ultras. Um, and I actually saw them do pretty good with the scalp, but then the problem with that one is, again, like, you end up taking on more risk than you realize, and you can blow up really quickly. But you can catch quite a bit from just the randomness movement over there in the ultras. Um, the 30-year is really, if we're, I think the best way to do it is, I don't want to say the best way to do it, but one thing that I think can be really successful is you see which way the spread is going, and then you trade it based on which way the spread is going. So right now, when we're moving up, you want to be in the 30-year. Yesterday, that move up yesterday, woo, really good trade. In 30-year went a whole handle. So, whole point. But if you're really looking to use the order flow and the queue and everything else like that, 10-year. 10-year is really your best place for that. I have a hard time. Sorry, I don't have the auto read on. Why don't I have the auto read on?
Axe says I have a hard time reading order flow on S.
Well, me too. I don't. Here's the thing with it in ES. It's most of what you see in ES is hedging. It's either hedging or speculation. So, what you actually get in the tape in ES, in my opinion, isn't as useful as it is in the 10-year. In the 10-year, what you see on the book and what you see trade has a significant impact on where it moves. If I'm a really good example of how it went there before. We saw that there was a big offer iceberg. We bought after it cleared. We could have gotten a tick. Okay. Then Kudlow comes along, and the sellers just kind of closed the jaws around us. And you could see how when they ticked down on me, because I maybe wanted to try and scratch out a break even, but they put a huge offer on it. I really, really screwed that up. But I haven't been trading the treasuries in a while, so mistakes should be expected, I guess. But you could see the liquidity moved it. No question about it, right? In ES, you could have something like that happen, and they'll easily just bust through it because the index moved that way, you know? The volume that you see in ES doesn't really move it. If anything, the volume that you're seeing over there is really just an indication of the speculative interest over there, which is not necessarily something that you want to follow along with. You know what I mean? So yeah, another good example. I have that little histogram down in the bottom right chart, bottom histogram. You know, you just watch it. When they move down, you'll see that there will be more bids because it's all of the speculative interest putting their bids out and expecting to get filled. White House advisor Kudlow says it would be a big mistake to take another step towards lockdown and coronavirus. Coronavirus. It's time to be open. It's time to stay open. We're not closing. We'll never close, says Donald Trump. Story on the Hill. Say that last night? Well, that was an okay downtick. Look, they hit into the '04 half. I think I might want to try. So let's just take another experimental thing. I think I could get filled at '04 half. Hold on a second. I wonder. So I'm looking over at the E-mini. I don't I don't think that we should take trades based off of technical analysis patterns, but I do think that it would be it's a good idea to kind of be aware of them when they're happening. And the E-mini is showing a very uh, clear potential head and shoulders. If they were to turn down and accelerate down here, that would be people would very much read that as a short-term head and shoulders on a 5-minute chart. So I'm going to keep an eye on that and see how that turns out. Let's see here. Hmm. Did you see that the offer spiked there a little bit at '05 in the 10-year? Just for a second, and then it pulled back off. I saw just a few orders hit when that happened. look at the bids in the 5 year as well. Okay, so we didn't never. I thought maybe I could get filled, but nope. So we can do that. I do want to get in. Hmm. Let's see here. Where is our? Have somebody talking to somebody here. We should give them our channel or the video URL. We'll just do this.
This might be the most.
Okay, so big snack at 05. You know what? If they were to film me at 05, wouldn't mind. Okay, so this is a really interesting technical setup. I it did fill it. Now, the way that I got filled is not the best, I'm gonna say. Okay, a little bit of a click there in the E-mini. Somebody fiddling around with some bids at 139 even. Nope. So that little bounce in the E-mini right there would ruin your pattern quite a bit anyways. As I was saying, it's like I don't think that the patterns are really very useful. Um, there's a lot of randomness in how they turn out. Um, probability wise, it's not that useful, but I still think it's nice to keep an eye on it because you know that there's going to be a lot of people trying to trade that, right? There was probably a good number of people that tried taking that short and just kind of got disappointed there. Now on my side, I'm really disappointed that they took O5 offer again, but it's not holding really very strong. So I think that we still have a good chance they could bounce back up here. We're probably going to need some movement in the E-mini though. I don't know if that's going to come through. Seeing a lot of people on Twitter talk about how even though we're getting a lot of new cases, that we're not getting a rising death rate. Although I saw the headline yesterday, some ICU units in Florida were full. That's very concerning to me. Okay, tepid uptick. They are able to stack at 2,000, but notice not a lot of volume trading it now. Like they upticked and the robots aren't hitting back. Okay. Well, somebody did take it 1,400 to do it. Kudlow still speaking. U.S. relationship with Mexico getting better and better. Cool.
Gary Rich says listening to you describe order flow action as like blind people calling a horse race. Bump bump boing boing.
You know, I don't think that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now is probably all that. I mean, it's just like any other kind of technical analysis, right? It's probably not super indicative of anything. Especially, when we're at O5 and they've traded back and forth across it. I mean, it did take 2,000 to trade it down, but is that really all that significant? Probably not. Other than that, this is very clearly the eye, right? The balanced area of interest. Actually traded back and forth there now a couple of times. Look at that, barely anything bid it. I guess one thing I should note that I didn't note before is that um, below us, the bids are a lot stronger than the offers above us. That could change really quickly, but for now, yeah, that O5 is, there's not a whole lot stacking either way. It's very different from the 5-year. The 5-year has a pretty good bid. Well, it has a good bid and an offer, but the bid is quite a bit stronger than the offer, and kind of suggests that they might want to move up. So I'm surprised that the 10-year isn't willing to hold any kind of a bid there. I suppose that what I'm seeing there in the 5-year could flip. A little bit of a click there in the E-mini again at around 139. Okay, now they're willing to hold a bid there. for a moment at least. I don't know. Pretty random. It's still pretty random. They are willing to stack up over 1,000 on the bid now at 05, but like it pulls really quickly, right? Okay, some more messing with the bid in the E-mini, this time at 3140. Scott Adams, one step to dismantling systemic racism would involve black citizens not voting for the Democratic candidate every time because eliminating political competition will never get you better schools, and
Gary
unless
Rich
you fix
says if you woke
education,
up
the
3
rest is
hours earlier, you
redecorating.
could have got at least 5 PTS on 20 PT moves in
Yes,
S.
yes,
Now it's
Gary.
dead.
Yes, Gary Rich. If I stayed up all night every day and didn't do anything other than work my regular job, trade, and sleep, then I suppose that I could have gotten that little bit of a dip in the middle of the night that, in the larger scheme of things, doesn't look too incredibly significant. I'm wondering. I was talking to somebody on YouTube, on Facebook
Gary
earlier,
Rich says, well, you have to suffer sleep deprivation in order to succeed at anything.
and I'm wondering if he's popped here into chat or not. Valentin. So my next question to him was going to be what he trades, so we could talk about what are the things that are potentially moving that today. Okay, so now the bid and offer between 05 and 05 half are much closer, and there is some more order flow in the 5-year going into 25 half, but it looks like they're absorbing a decent amount every uptick. So 23.78 so far. Remember, we saw a 5K lot there earlier, so E-mini ticking up there. Okay, 5-year ticks up at 22 half.
Luis Alarid says, Seth, no bull run in Spain this year. I know this is your annual trek.
Bull run in Spain? What? No, I have no annual track. I don't think I'm going anywhere this year, man. We're still talking about going down to Texas to visit my wife's parents, but I just don't know if that's going to happen with the way, if it's really that wise to travel or what. Hmm. 29 and the ZB goes offer there now. So a little bit of an encouraging uptick, but back to balance. And of course, the mini taking a small leg higher probably has a lot to do with that. Evernote wants to update, so we'll let it do that. Okay. Roughly balanced interest there for a moment, and now an offer. A little bit stronger of an offer. 05 in the 10-year. As the E-mini continues its little trek up. It looks like the E-mini is probably going to get through this 3143 area. And now a change at 05. Now it's looking weak at 04. Mm-mm. Sorry, 04 half. Oh dear. A little bit of a stack there in the 5-year. No, that's not too encouraging, guys. I thought maybe we were gonna get some, bidding for the auction, but it looks like they're just watching the E-mini. E-mini obviously down a little bit. It's gonna want to try and make a bull move, and the treasuries seem to care a lot about if they move even a handle over in the E-mini today. So I think it doesn't look like our plan is working out so well. That's why I was saying I did do it on the experimental account in the 10-year because I'm really not sure you're going to have a whole lot of opportunity today.
Sunday Driver says I always wanted to run with the Bulls.
In Spain. Oh, I didn't realize we're that close to the E-mini open.
RJ Wheel says we have been since 2009.
Hmm. Well, I remember 2009. I was watching markets, and I remember when they bottomed out. I remember in particular thinking, "Oh yeah, like this is definitely the bottom." And then getting on CNBC and every day them talking about, "Oh, this is just a short covering rally," and everybody's so skeptical about it, and I couldn't understand it. I was like, "It's so clearly bottomed. Why don't you get it?" And now I look at it today, and it's kind of like the same thing where you had a point where it's like, "Oh, I thought, okay, yeah, probably we can move up a little bit, especially if everybody's going to have money that they, from the government that they can put into the markets. But I did not expect us to move the way that we have. I thought that you were going to spend a lot more time down there. You know what I mean? Well, I think I've dinked around with this one a little bit too much. Oh man, it's just been such a long time since I've really, really focused on the 10-year, and I just don't feel like the trade management on my part is very good. But it's also kind of like it seems like that I would have to be, getting in and out a lot. Well, that was an encouraging uptick. Stacked 2000 on it when they ticked up. Immediately, it's more than the '04 half. That might be because they're getting ready for the open here in 3 minutes.
Sunday Driver says, what is everyone's favorite browser?
I've been using Brave, but no, I had some problems with it. I'm told that there are other better browsers out there for privacy, but Brave does a pretty good job.
RJ Wheel says Chrome.
Uzi Knesset says Internet Explorer.
RJ Wheel says this new Edge is crappy.
Oh, the Edge browser, you mean? That's sure stacked.
RJ Wheel says yes.
Think somebody's hedging themselves for the open. I think we could. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I think the bonds might decide to move a little bit here when the E-mini opens. Ouch. 12.9 only 12.90 to clear it. There was a 3K bid at '04 and it only
RJ
took
Wheel says
12.90 to clear it.
3,153 target.
You want a 3153? Well, the Bulls are definitely going to try and take their move. We'll see how far they get. I suppose that if they really decide to run and try and get back to some of yesterday's range, like above 3160, bonds could maybe take a little move down, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of fundamental drivers for today's action, so I actually find market's telling me that I'm missing something for sure, right? Because the bonds at the moment seem to really care. Okay. Here we go. Mm. So it looks like the first impulse in ES is down, but it's not super strong. Still kind of a two-way battle. They haven't completely decided which way. Okay. How much was that? About 1,000 contracts selling? Treasury's not reacting to it at all, though. Okay. Well, they bid into 04. They're going to hit the 04 half. Oh, the 04 half is pulling a little bit. Well, that was a pretty good start for the Bears in the E-mini, but I don't know if that's enough to really cause a fundamental change here. The delta, though, on that certainly seems to be favoring the Bears. I mean, that was a decent amount selling on the open there. Okay, so now 04 half almost completely pulled. We're probably still going to trade 2,000 to clear it, but maybe we don't clear it. Maybe not. Maybe not. They're definitely trading off of the E-mini. Look at that. E-mini comes back to the open. They tick down. Okay, so back to the open in the E-mini. Cumulative delta hasn't completely recovered, but it's close. Yeah, so as they move up here, they're probably going to get us some stops. Now it's equalized. Boom. Ouch. Fuck. Yeah, that's not what you want. Well, you can start looking over here in the E-mini. If they're going to move, if the treasuries are going to react to it like that, I don't necessarily want to be taking the trades in the treasuries. So I'd be interested in the treasuries if the treasuries are doing something for the auction. And if they're just hedging from the E-mini moving up, then why wouldn't I just take the E-mini along, right? Okay, 50. And it's chasing it down in the treasury. Okay. Well, the price action seems to be pretty positive. Okay. Now we're getting a sell coming in. Off that last bar. Hmm. I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, I want to click something now. Like maybe if I think it's going to go down, try that in the treasury again. Or maybe I should be buying the E-mini here at like 49. But then I'm thinking like, well, what's causing it to move? I don't really see a whole lot of. Hmm. Wow, Nvidia market value tops Intel after 71% rally this year. I really like Nvidia, but I just don't see how they can be a more valuable company than Intel, especially since they only make graphics cards. And man, I don't know, man. That sounds a little. That doesn't sound like something that can last. Okay, well, we're not above the overnight high quite yet, but we're awfully close. Oh no, actually we are, just by a tick. Okay. Now I'm still concerned about this 3155 area though. Bloomberg. Kanye West reportedly no longer supports President Trump and says he plans to run for president as an independent. Well, I really don't think that Kanye West knows what is involved in running for president. He's going to be like, "What? You have to register?"
Sunday driver says gold just charged through 1800 like it was a wall made of paper.
Oh yeah, good. Thanks for pointing that out. They just made a really good strong run, and the euro is
RJ
making a
Wheel
move
says that's
too.
supporting Trump. PLL take away Biden voters.
If he actually is on the ballot, wouldn't be so sure though. I don't think that there's a lot of Democrat
Blackpink
voters that like him.
LICC was first on that video.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We have our new video up. How important is a good printer, says Win? Not important at all. Let me give you guys the link to this other video if it's up here now. Yes, here it is. Go give that a view here real quick for me. That'll
Sunday
help the
driver
video a
says if
lot.
history holds, silver is going to fly like an angry winged monkey.
Oh yeah, silver always gets
Speculator Seth Day
wild.
Trading says.
Well, this is a strong offer in the 10-year again. I would see some things that would be encouraging, but then it would very quickly go against it, didn't it? And I was just kind of like, didn't want to let go of it. You know, I'm finding the bonds really hard to trade because I typically don't see a whole lot of reason for it to move, you know? And, yeah, I don't know. Guess there is yesterday's point of control at 139 and 1/2, but it's kind of this larger thing. If I don't see news going, I suppose that there's Kudlow came out and was trying to say encouraging things, but and I guess there was that. Remember we mentioned that technical pattern, and of course it failed really really hard. It was kind of like a one that was so perfect. I don't think that you could come in and say that, oh, it's too perfect, but the fact that it was there and then failed is probably a good sign that maybe they're going to make a run up now. Um, but like I said, since I don't have a key driver other than Kudlow cheerleading, how do I determine where it's going to go to? If I wanted to take a trade in the E-mini. Well, we could get as high as 3173. So there is still some room to go. No. So I guess we'll try it because it looks like there's some stops available. This one will also be on the experimental account though. Ooh. Okay, so that was some interesting action right there. It is holding for the moment. It definitely some orders came in and slammed it down briefly. Now keep in mind we are getting into this area that they had some distribution yesterday. So I'm gonna bet there's gonna be some people looking to hold that area. We'll see what if it works out because just because it was an area yesterday doesn't mean that it matters today. That area probably did what it did yesterday just because there was a market on close balance. So I think what caused that to happen yesterday probably isn't relevant anymore, but you are going to see people try and trade it. So let's see what happens. Well, it looks like the treasuries are trying to hold at 03. Hmm. Kind of getting that sleepiness again today. Hmm. The way that they traded up through that 31.55 up to here says to me that they're gonna they're gonna go through this for sure. So I think that our first target in the 74 area is reasonable. So I'm just looking like based on what the implied volatility is and then how we've been moving, I think that we stand a good chance of hitting our implied volatility target on the upside. Hmm. Yeah, so you can see some reasonably large numbers trading here around the 31.57. Well, I'm going to check our volume profile. Sorry, my footprint chart, because if I get enough printing in through there, then I might get concerned. At the moment, though, it's not enough to really be that big of a deal. There is some absorption, so I do think there's a good chance that we get a pullback and then further move up. But 3153, by the way, was yesterday's open. So that's another reason for them to have reacted the way that they did. Donald Trump. The economy and jobs are growing much faster than anyone except me expected. Job growth is the biggest in China in history. China virus mortality rate is among the lowest of any country, shaping up for a good third quarter and a great next year. Nasdaq at new record high, 401k is way up. He really thinks that that the economy is the only thing that's going to matter to him. I think at what point is he going to realize when the economy is doing well and he's still down in the polls that that's not enough?
Young Hong says S climbing steadily today.
Yeah. I mean, after
Sunday Driver says I'm really starting to hate my keyboard. It's a Logitech keyboard mouse combo pad. I really hate it.
oh yeah. Well, I have a what is it called? The Fnatic, Fnatic, and I'm pretty happy with it. Silent red switches. There was a good stop run, 3159. I think we got a little bit more before we're into the more critical levels from yesterday. So like 3160 was kind of a local point of control, and then the point of control for the day was 3167.75. So I think that they're gonna make a B run for that previous day's point of control for is what it looks like at the moment. Okay, so now we're seeing some volume trade here in the O2 area in the treasuries. Okay. So here again, we're at a key pivot level, but I see absolutely no reason why this area should be significant at all. So, Governor Kumo extends disaster emergency order through August 6th. That it was a headline that I would have thought would be uh, moved the market long before I ever heard about it, and they don't seem to care. Yeah, they're going for it. They ain't pushing. There's the 60. Now, the guys thinking on this pivot are still going to be like, yeah, you know what, probed it a little bit. They could still be, just building uh, for a flip back down. So they're not going to be giving up yet. Well, we should manage our stops here. I'm going to keep it pretty loose because I do think that we could make it up to our volatility targets. But I don't want some crazy coronavirus headline to come in and just wipe everything out. So keep it loose, but move it up. Well, I can't say for sure if it's going to hold this area or what. I think that the way things are going, that
RJ Wheel says raging.
it supports a move up to our upside volatility target. But
RJ Wheel says bull.
yeah, I also think that floor pivots are completely useless, and so I kind of really want to see it fail hard to here again. Yeah, I would like to see them just plow right through it and up to the 3169 area. Yeah. Okay. So quite a bit of volume there, but not able to push higher. Some iceberging. Actually, enough of volume now to uh, get me out, I think. We can get 35. Well, that one wasn't too bad. Berkshire Hathaway has taken a 7% stake in Boeing.
Luis Alarid says another beautiful trading day, us up, bonds down.
I don't know. I mean, look at it. Look at it from this perspective, right? That was a pretty good up candle, but does it really mean anything? Even in the treasury, does it really mean anything? And we're just into yesterday's levels.
Sunday Driver says what switches are the best keyboard switches?
Oh, well, it depends on what you want Sunday. I recommend the silent red because they're the
Luis Alarid
quietest.
says I'm up over 1K.
They're the quietest, and they have they're linear switches. How to describe a linear switch? A linear switch is activates faster, I guess you could say. But it's not as tactile. If you want tactile switches, then you want the blue switches. The blue switches are loud and as annoying as freaking all get out.
RJ Wheel says that was a trade of the day. Now keep it as the plan.
You want to keep it?
Young Hong says I like the super clicky ones.
I do think overall the plan here should be that they go up to the 31. Sorry, what was it exactly? 3173.
Sunday Driver says what about the brown switches?
So yeah, let's see here. I think that brown switches are like tactile switches, but are not as clicky. Yep, that's correct. So they're like blue in that they are very tactile, but they are designed to not make as loud of a click sound, and they kind of spring back really quickly. But it's mainly those. That's like if you want tactile, but you want to make a little bit of a compromise because you think that blue switches are just too annoying, then you go for the brown. There's so many different types, it gets crazy. Then you can get into things like you use the silent red stems, but the um, silent base housing, and you combine them together, and then you get a switch that's super extra quiet, and you can spend thousands of dollars on keyboards if you really want to. Because the thing is if you got a switch that costs like $5, then you take all those keys, adds up quickly. The Treasury continues to press. Hmm. Yeah, now we're getting distribution through this whole area. So uh, it looks like they're petering out a little early because we're coming into that uh, counter trend period. Yeah, there's definitely a really solid distribution here in the 58 area. So I think what we want to do is wait for the counter trend period, and then sometime during the counter trend period, I think that they'll want to come back into this 55 area and fill it out a little bit, and we might be able to take a long in there.
Gary Rich says set your video on VIX is the expected move, not the implied volatility. They are two different meanings. Calculate implied volume, then get expected move. Not the other way around.
Sure. Well, I used implied volatility because that is the base thing that you stat it from. You know, like how do I say? You could, I guess what you're saying is you use implied volatility, you do our calculation, and you get the expected move. And I get that. I didn't mean to be saying that target was implied volatility. It was more like this target is derived from implied volatility. But maybe could have used some better phrasing there. I don't think that it will be that'll be too confusing to people, though. Do you? I mean,
Gary Rich says speak what the expected move is, not implied. You will confuse people.
sure, because implied we're really talking about the options, right? I think I understand what you're saying. I'm just asking. I'm not so sure that it's a big enough deal to like go and redo the video or anything. But you just put that in the comments. We can, you know, 'cause I think it's really important to have good definitions and vocabulary. I feel like with technical analysis, that's one of the problems that we have is that because we allow the words to become so vague that they can mean whatever people want, that it allows people to get away with saying shit that's just not true. You know what I mean? Mm-mm-mm.
Sunday Driver says how loud are blue switch keyboards?
Oh, I don't have one in here. My stepson has a blue switch keyboard, and man, when he was in here and he would start typing, ooh, I'm just telling you, they're loud. I consider it loud. If you're in the room, you're gonna notice, right? Like like if your wife or girlfriend is anywhere close, they're gonna complain about it. You wouldn't take the blue keyboard into the office, right? It's distracting to people. Or maybe the most the shortest and most correct way of saying it is that a lot of people complain about them. So, like the user loves it because it's great to have that tactile feedback, but everybody else hates it. So I got the silent red because I wanted it to be as quiet as possible. So when you listen to me type, okay, most of what you're hearing is just the sound of the key bottoming out at the bottom and vibrating up through the microphone. So I could maybe add like a softer pad underneath of it to really absorb that impact, or you know, probably if I had a better how do you say why do we keep forgetting what the name of this is? Shock mount, better shock mount, then maybe you wouldn't hear that. But with the silent reds, the actual click of the switch is almost inaudible. So for streaming, silent red, pretty good option. Okay, so they decided to go a little bit further. I'm not gonna fret too much unless they like immediately go up to the 73. Then I'll be a little upset.
Sunday Driver says, are the Reds tactile?
Not really. I'm just thinking here. I mean, like to me, I can feel it, but that's because I'm feeling the key bottoming out at the bottom. But they don't have that bump at the end that people like. I wonder. Oh, I didn't realize. So I think what happened is some people did try going short there, and they tried a little bit too hard and had to give up. I think because, uh, well, I mean, it's always a little questionable in the E-mini, but you can see that they were going to like negative 1,000 at some points, but then it flipped really quickly. I'm kind of starting to think that we should build our bot off of that 1,000 level. Like if we go from 1,000 or maybe even negative 1,500 to 1,000, then I want to reverse that. I think. Mm, Still thinking about the treasuries. I want revenge. I want revenge in the treasuries. And look, a tick up there. I don't know. I should probably just leave it alone, right? I obviously don't have the touch in the treasuries right now. My first entry, I thought that the first entry was pretty great. It didn't go against me. Got a tick out of it, and then I haven't managed them well. And then the one after that just didn't. I had way too much momentum against me. That was just way too toxic of a fill. So yeah. And then I didn't manage it. Like I should have just puked right then and there. I don't know what's wrong with me on that one. Here in the E-mini, I feel like I'm playing it correctly. I could have jumped on a lot earlier, of course, but okay. So now we're getting a little bit more what I was expecting in the counter trend period. It sounds like the construction guys are going out there again. Okay, so this pullback, like we said, is very much expected. Let's see how far they get. There is liquidity at 31.55. There is a little bit of liquidity now showing up even lower at 31.52. Yeah. This wouldn't be a bad spot for it to turn back up, but we're way too early in the counter trend time period right now, so I don't really want to take a trade. I want to be at least 8:30, 8:30 and see what they do. Because for all we know, this whole move is going to retrace. I mean, honestly, why did we move up? There's no real reason. All of the traders decide to just, okay, we all got in and now we bail and it goes back down. There's not a real reason for this to move. Secretary Pompeo, in Syria, the actions of the Assad regime, Russia, and China to constrict the flow of life-saving supplies, medicine, and food have exacerbated an already dire situation.
Fights and Freakouts says if there needs to be news for movement, then nearly every day is invalidated. Lol.
Well, that's 100% true. No. Well, I mean, most days there is going to be some news. And when by news, I'm not necessarily just talking economic numbers, although there usually is some sort of economic number. Today, there's 10-year Treasury auction. I guess that kind of counts. But there's usually something that happens. And a lot of days, there isn't anything to drive it. And hey, you know what? There's less opportunity on those days. So is it true that the majority of days there's not really significant opportunity for trading? I think that's probably true.
Fights and Freakouts says yeah, I feel ya. Think it's just general sentiment, but agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm maybe using the term news a little bit too broadly. You know what I mean? I guess the main point that I'm getting across is that I'm looking for a reason for larger players to be involved in the market, right? I want to see some indication that flow is moving from money is moving from one location to the other. And today, there is some clear signs that money is moving. Like the euro took a really strong move up, and gold kind of moved along with it as well. And the dollar just got killed. And as that happened, equities kind of floated up based on the dollar weakness. So, that's something that we can kind of use, and that's kind of a little bit of how I was able to justify taking the long. That and the fact that it was just very clear that, okay, we're going to have an up day, so let's see if we can make it to any of our volatility targets. It didn't get quite as far as I would have hoped before I started seeing things that told me that it's time for a pullback. But we could still do it, right? We could still do it. So we keep an eye on here in then another 10 or 15 minutes. Dr. Bill Fisher, ER doctor in Houston, and Dad to Kristen Fisher says yesterday, I could not find a single hospital bed, ICU or otherwise, in the entire greater Houston area. We had nowhere to send people other than to send them out of state or to nearby cities such as Austin or San Antonio. And Ian Shepherdson's tweeting about this. This is why the focus of the Open Up Again crowd on the failing mortality rate is misplaced. The constraint is hospital capacity, unless you think it's okay that your spouse, friend, kid, grandma might not be able to get an ICU bed if they need one. He's totally right, guys. This is the thing that concerns me. New cases doesn't concern me. Hospital capacity concerns me. They've reached hospital capacity in some of these early opening states like the Houston area, where if they didn't really have a very good hospital capacity to begin with, they're filling it up. And now apparently we're getting it in Florida too. And Florida is kind of playing with this and not really giving us all of the information. It's not a positive thing. And I'm afraid that what you're going to see is you're going to see other people watching this and overreact, right? So then you'll have a liberal state that maybe has more than enough hospital capacity and isn't anywhere close to having problems, but decides, well, because of what happened in Houston, we're just going to stay shut down for the next, near foreseeable future. And that would hurt the economy. So this is something to be concerned about. But, well, it's Wednesday. We could get coronavirus headlines coming in here too. Wednesdays tend to be a little bit worse than average. So let's just watch it. If we see a big dump, like a really fast one, then I might want to go along with it. Zero Hedge tweeting Fauci says it never saw a virus with such a variety of symptoms, almost as if it isn't natural, ? Exclamation point. Asks the Zero Hedge. Yeah, of course you'd say that. Oh, what is this? Breaking CFTC files first enforcement action targeting misconduct directly tied to COVID-19 pandemic.
Gary Rich says, how's the rabbit? That's really why I'm here.
Well, the rabbit's doing really well. The rabbit is outside now. I feel bad on some things, but I think that the animals are happier this way. I don't know why I feel bad, but the rabbit has been moved outside. The birds have been moved into the basement, and because the birds were being disruptive to the baby sleeping. And I have to say everybody is really happy, and the birds are, although they seem really excited to see me when I come down and give them their food, they don't seem unhappy at all. There's absolutely no signs that they're unhappy. There's the two of them together. They got plenty of stuff to do in the cage, and they seem to just be loving it. By themselves. And the rabbit seems to like being outside. So even though, it's pretty hot, but she's got shade. And my house doesn't smell. I think that maybe some of us were allergic to the rabbit, to be honest. It's been good, but she's out there, she's happy. And the kids get her out and let her walk around the backyard, which is kind of funny because she doesn't really know like to run away or anything like that. She just kind of like slowly hops around and never tries running or jumping high or anything like that. Sounds pretty funny. Okay, so we did get our pullback pretty limited. Did actually kind of go to where I was saying, right? Where when I was like, well, there's this low profile area that they might try and fill out. I can't believe only 200 down here at the 54.50. Still a little early. I don't know. When I was saying earlier with our plan that, okay, we should get a pullback and we'll kind of take it from there. But now that I'm thinking about it and I'm thinking about the possible coronavirus
Gary Rich
numbers.
says, did you see the Harvard senior who lost her job over BLM? LMFAO, she blamed conservatives and Trump supporters. Oh, libs make me laugh so hard.
Are you talking about that lady that was like literally talking about like killing people and stuff? I believe I know what you're talking about. That was really quite crazy. I have to say, it just there's so many things that I see in the politics that I'm just so shocked. Like I've always been on Reddit and I've always talked to extreme left people.
Gary Rich says she said she would stab all Lives Matter supporters.
I've always seen people say extreme things, and so that kind of stuff doesn't necessarily surprise me. But what I just find so absolutely shocking is that a good number of people accepting this as normal, you know? Like that kind of talk that woman was engaged in is not okay for public discourse, and I'm glad that the school stepped in and was like, no, or sorry, that their work said, well, we can't have somebody that's running around and saying that. And this is kind of another thing that I have a lot of problems with, because I when it's violent speech, that's kind of a place where I personally draw a line. Is like, I'm never gonna go out and say, hey, go and kill all of these supporters of this thing. Like, this is not okay. And even this talk about, oh, there could be a revolution and or a civil war and be ready and stuff, like, nah. And I don't listen, be prepared for if the communist revolution ever takes place so that you and your family is safe, but I'm never going to support violence, okay? But people extend what is violent speech like way beyond like when Donald Trump was saying, hey, we need to have law and order, and the protesters will be met with strong force if they try and do X, Y, and Z. Like, that's just the president doing his job and like warning about the consequences of illegal actions. And they say that was violent speech. I think was absolutely ridiculous, right? So there's kind of this strange line, and you get in these situations. Like, I think this Facebook story. So the story on Facebook today was that they had a civil rights audit, and the civil rights audit said that Facebook was making some big mistakes, and in particular, they were mentioning not censoring the president when he tweeted. So it's like they want you to be censored on all of these things, like just innocuous things that the president really has to say, quite frankly, and that President Obama said in his own way. But then, on the other hand, when you have people on the left saying just incredibly ridiculous, discriminatory, ugly, violent things, and they think it's totally okay, it blows my mind that this is going on. It's not. This is not the internet I grew up on. I'll tell you that much. I'll tell you that much. Okay, so they got back down to 53 now. And we're kind of okay. So now I'm a little.
Gary Rich says Trump's Mount Rushmore speech was his third best speech.
You think that was his third best? I mean, I heard good things about it.
RJ Wheels says on that United Shades show on CNN last year, they did a show on Antifa and took glee in showing their knives and other weapons. If it was a show about right-wing militia, they wouldn't be gleeful.
Yeah, totally. You're totally right, RJ. Well, and there's these things, like there was this black militia that's been kind of stirring things up in Georgia, and everybody's been completely ignoring it. And these guys are doing things that are way more, what would we say, like trying to provoke an issue than anything else I've seen. Maybe it's a good thing that the media is ignoring them, and maybe that's why they're doing it. But okay, so that moved down. Just that last candle down to 31.50. I think that kind of changes the situation.
Sunday Driver says the baby generation that grew up coddled and told they were the center of the universe are growing up and asserting their influence. They've been shielded from consequence their entire lives.
Maybe. I think it's
Gary
more than
Rich
that.
says his Warsaw, Poland speech was his second.
I don't remember those ones. But I'll tell you, that the speech was an effective speech when news outlets like CNN are making stories about it and trying to paint it as a really bad speech. Right? If it was a bad speech, then they generally don't care. But they were all pointing out, like, this speech was about whites. So they're saying all sorts of things that were just ridiculous and not true. So that it had some impact. It's just, my issue is right now, if you're talking about like what impact does that have on the election, well, I think that his problems right now electorally are a little bit bigger than that, and a really good pro-America message might not be enough to win the election unless Biden reacts to it the wrong way. But as it stands right now, Biden is mostly just quiet and doesn't really rock the boat. Then he can get away with it. Oh yeah, I had this this story open. Let's read this story. All right, I'm sure that we will find this interesting. Commodity Futures Trading Commission today announced it's first filed a complaint in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas against James Frederick Walsh of Boca Raton, Florida, charging him with fraudulent solicitation and failure to register with the CFTC. Walsh's solicitations.
RJ Wheels says his best speech was his intro speech in June 2015. He's owned the media from day one. They were aghast till they saw the ratings spike every time they showed discussion of it. And it went from there.
Yeah. Walsh's fraudulent solicitations include falsely claiming to generate increased profit as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the first enforcement action brought by the CFTC, alleging misconduct tied directly to the pandemic. The CFTC has also brought additional cases against entities and individuals whose frauds were ongoing during the pandemic. That's Boca Raton. Yeah, that's where Optimus Futures guys are at. I wonder if Mad Z knows anything about that. For the purpose of trading foreign currency on their behalf, using primarily social media platforms, Walsh fraudulently marketed himself to the public as a highly successful forex trader who earned average monthly returns of 8 to 11%, or a flat 3% profit each month for his clients. To achieve this fictitious results, Walsh falsely claimed to have access to legal inside information about the direction in which forex markets will move. As alleged, Walsh has no US-based forex trading accounts. Of course. The complaint further alleges that after he received a cease and desist letter from the Texas State Securities Board related to his fraudulent solicitations, Walsh falsely represented that he was earning even greater trading profits now that the COVID-19 pandemic had impacted the financial markets, claiming that the returns in Forex continue to grow as the rest of the financial world continues to suffer.
Sunday Driver says the silver monkey wants to climb to the treetops.
I'll bet. Gold doesn't look like it's backing off at all, does it? The Treasury is kind of pulled back down a little bit. I'm surprised the Treasuries are moving the way that they are because that was not in line with equities. So we might have some opportunity here in the 10-year. Might be something going on here. I don't know if I want to just reverse it though. Do I see any news coming through here yet? Not yet. We did have the EIA. Let's see, how did oil react to that? So far, oil is going down off of a looks like a build in distillates and Cushing with gasoline, a draw of negative 4 million. Rabobank markets are across the board totally divorced from reality. Facts no longer matter. Okay. New York subway service could be cut in half without billions in federal aid. That would be really problematic for New York, wouldn't it? Bitterly disappointing. No UK aid directed at autos, says auto industry is important employer and driver of growth.
Gary Rich says gold will climb until 10 years gets above 2.5 or 3%. Along with hyperinflation expectations in the future.
Sunday Driver says I'm going to get a new keyboard, mechanical, red linear switches, and a new mouse.
And a new mouse. So I think I kind of went over this in my trading computer hardware thing, but I think the thing that matters with your mouse is how the mouse feels in your hand. Because most of the sensors and everything like that are, pretty good. Certainly good enough for trading, right? So you want a mouse that fits your hand, and that's why I really like Zowie mice. Zowie, Zowie. So here's my mouse. It's this really manly pink color, which I just love. You can get it in baby blue or hot pink, and I was like, well, that baby blue looks like a sissy color, so I got the pink. I really like it. But the way that the mouse fits your hand, you want a mouse that's, it kind of depends on how big your hand is, right? A bigger hand, you actually want a bigger mouse. Smaller hand, you want a smaller mouse. And Zowie has like a really wide range. So you will look at them and be like, oh, there's like 10 of these. Which one do I get? Well, you have to look in and see what are the differences in the shape and what kind of shape do you want. So I think that this one, which one is it? I forget the name of it, but I really like it. And the thing is it's so simple. Like I've had like really complicated I've had really complicated Logitech mice.
Sunday Driver says I think gold will keep going. Trump will lose. Dems will sweep the government. The progressive left will get control of everything as Biden will be a drooling idiot. Black reparations will happen.
So did you read this article? I think I was on Zero Hedge. I don't know if that was where it originated. Let me find it for you. You'd be really interested in this one. Stocks panic bid at the open again, says Zero Hedge.
Sunday Driver says what brand is your mouse?
Zowie, Zowie. I think it's like the S2 or something like that. There's this guy named Rocket Jump Ninja on YouTube that does really detailed reviews of mice. So once you have one that you think is good, I'd go and see if he did a review of it. And let's see here. Where was it? It must. Oh, there's so many stories overnight. Here we go. Oh, it's on the Hill. Here it is. I'll give you the link here.
Opinion contributor Judd Gregg writes.
Thought this was interesting.
Gary Rich says pink mouse. Where is your pink lipstick and hoop earrings to
I'm
match?
telling you, it's a manly color. Do you know that way back in the
Speculator
day?
Seth Day Trading says
That back in the day, because we always do like with babies that pink is for girls and blue is for boys. But it used to be back in the day that you would always dress baby boys in pink because red was considered an aggressive color. I like it. I think it looks great. Kind of want to get some stuff on my keyboard to match it. But anyways, this article on the Hill that I just linked you basically was saying that if Joe Biden gets put in, that the far left will try and take control. That it wouldn't be surprising if they come in and they say, "Oh, Joe Biden is too old to be president now," or his judgment is impaired, and the vice president should assume control, and the vice president, likely being far leftist, takes over. And I thought it was obviously it's kind of like a conspiracy theory for low probability of happening type of event. But I think that the case that he made was very compelling, and was something that I think people should factor into their decision is, hey, Joe Biden is old. He is old, and who he chooses as vice president is going to matter a lot. And it looks like he's going to choose a far leftist. So, okay, we're handling this okay. I might miss this, but I just don't like that setup. So I'm going to walk away from it for a little bit, get some water. Hopefully it gives us a better spot.
Sunday driver says I don't put anything past the far left. They are damn commies and will do anything to consolidate power.
Okay, so we're getting a pretty good downturn again. I think that my whole thinking there about that was a little. It's because part of the reason why I was a little weary about taking that, not only because it was kind of at the higher end of a range, but that we had that move down to 3150. That earlier I said, this kind of might change things for us. We should be weary about this. And sure enough, they're coming down and they're testing it again. Now I see some volume at 3152. Also, the level 2 is really flaky right here. So, and I haven't seen coronavirus headlines, and I'm really concerned that today and tomorrow that the coronavirus numbers could come in and be negative. Oh, look, here's another Supreme Court decision. Let's read that. Jobs bias laws do not protect teachers in Catholic schools, Supreme Court rules. Okay. Now they're really pushing it. Yeah, new low. So that definitely I think I might just run away with what I've got today. So I don't know if a trade all the way back to the beginning of this move, like in the 3140 area, really makes sense to me. But at the same time, we're definitely having an issue. So, like there's a couple of scenarios. So we could go back down to the bottom of the move. This could still just be a pullback, and then we do end up making new highs on the day, and we end up going to the volatility target. But that hasn't been what's been happening the last few days. And like I said, the risk right now for us short-term trading is definitely that a coronavirus headline comes out and is bad because market hasn't been pricing those in very well. So, there's also a possibility that we just kind of go sideways. And since there's not really any fundamental news and we already had a pretty decent move, I don't think that taking on any more risk today is really justified at all. The treasuries are bidding a little bit. I suppose that we could still try playing the treasury because, um, we've got an auction over there. If we have an auction and the markets are getting a little scary, that can be really good for longs over in the treasuries. So that might be a favorable trade. Zero Hedge, head of New York's Fed's trading floor, says if markets continue improving, the Fed's purchases may stop entirely. Well, that would certainly be a reason to sell. We don't want the Fed to stop doing their market operations. We need to. Who is this guy, by the way? I want to know more about this. Miller Tabak. Writing on Twitter. Who is Carl Quintina? He is a CNBC reporter. I should know who he is. Well, you know what, we'll follow. I'm sorry, Carl. I haven't watched CNBC for a long time. I don't have cable news anymore. Well, so they made a pretty good push down there, and then it kind of backed
Sunday
off.
Driver says America will break into pieces this decade. Gold will go to the moon. Cash will turn to dust.
You know what, Sunday? You make a lot of really bold predictions that have a very low probability of happening. These are all like you're like saying that you know for sure that the black swans of all time are about to happen, and forgive me if I just say
Sunday Driver says lol.
Probably not. This is not the first time that I've heard people say things like that, and it never happens. My water doesn't taste right. Nah, it's just we changed the filter today. It's fine. Experts at the World Health Organization confirmed corona transfer through the air, who had already said that it would spread the first grade of 19 through the secretion of the droplet. But recently, the researcher announced that the virus is also being published via air. Oh, so are we saying that it's not just droplets now, that it can actually like float in the air outside of the droplet? Ergo, masks are useless? That's what that means, right? Oh, wait, hold on a second. Is that really what they're saying? Now, this isn't the first time that I've been hearing this news today. Why is First Squawk tweeting it right now? Am I wrong? I might be wrong. Maybe just talking out of my butt. But my understanding is that the virus itself is small enough that it would pass through an N95 mask, but that the N95 mask prevents you from breathing in the water droplets. If the virus is airborne outside of droplets. And the way that the first squawk says that, experts at the World Health Organization confirmed corona transfer through air, who had already said that it would spread the first grade of 19 through the secretion of the droplet. But recently, 239 researcher announced that the virus is also being published via air. So if I'm reading that correctly, the virus itself is smaller than anything that your masks is going to filter out. And so wearing masks is not going to do much at all. Well, I think it would still prevent the transfer of it, because the way that it's going to get into the air is from you coughing it out. So wearing a mask is going to reduce the transfer a lot, but that wearing a mask isn't going to do much, if anything, to prevent you from getting it.
Vincenzo C. says, I heard very quickly from a guy claiming chem warfare experience that the virus will go right through the surgical masks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like you got to realize that viruses are super tiny, right? So yeah, if it's just the virus and it's not part of a water
Vincenzo
droplet,
C. says, I wear it for social reasons now.
yeah, it'll go right through that material. Even those N95 masks, it won't stop it. The mask is only effective because the transfer has been through water droplets. So I'm still kind of watching it in this area. I'm not so sure that I'm going to take another trade today. I think that the opportunity, we caught it and that was it. But I do want to see where it comes out here. I feel like that there's some real, well, you know what? I could, I always feel like that when we're in this situation though, right? It's like it's kind of slow and I don't see much of a reason for it to move, but then it seems tight and like a breakout is imminent and then like it never happens. So I really shouldn't be setting high expectations for you guys here. I'm really not sure that the E-mini is going to do anything interesting today. I kind of think that initial move up was it. Hmm.
Sunday Driver says the virus has to ride on something. It can't just fly around on nothing.
Well, it could float in the air on its own, potentially. Okay, Eddie Tensini, the U.S. Census Bureau Household Pulse Survey, which performed admirably in anticipating the June jobs report, now shows employment has fallen by about 1.3 million cumulatively over the last 2 weeks. Some of this may be seasonality or survey error, but it merits pause nonetheless. Paul Krugman, this fits with many other straws in the wind, suggesting that recovery either slowed or actually went into reverse in the second half of June as new cases soared. I unfortunately I have to agree with him that since June, there's kind of been some concern in the markets.
Sunday Driver says it still helps to wear a mask since it prevents each of us from blowing our contaminated aerosolized water droplets into each other's faces.
Yes. No, you're right. You're totally right. Oh man, my wife has made so much money sewing masks for people, and basically all of the people that she sewed masks for are now coming back for more because they need them for when their kids go to school. Isn't that crazy? Every time that I think like, okay, maybe we'll get a break from the mask making, it picks up again, and she's made like thousands of them now. She just sews them all downstairs. It's super crazy. She needs to go to the store and get some new material for the kids masks today. Oh, this was one that I missed that is important. Ant denies story, but speculation is rife of a Hong Kong IPO for the financial tech arm of Alibaba. they're planning. Reuters and Ant Group says plans on
Sunday
Hong Kong
Driver says
float.
there will be big money to be made installing new ventilation filter systems that destroy viruses.
Oh, there you go. As soon as this year and targets a valuation of more than 200 billion, sources say. Well, I have a filter that has a HEPA filter in it and a UV, and I supposedly it purifies the air. I tell you, it's a really great air purifier. The air in my house is pretty good, nice and clean. We're still just kind of dabbling around here in the 50 area. I'm thinking back on my trade in the E-mini, and even though I think it was, a good trade, and I'm definitely doing way better in the E-minis still, and I think that that's just a function of there's a lot of money available in the equities market, right? But I kind of still see a little bit of
Sunday
randomness to
Driver
it.
says yes, the UV is key. UV light is really harsh on viruses. Just a brief moment in UV light will kill most viruses, even Wu flu virus.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about like where I got in was, maybe a little bit of luck of the draw that we ended up spiking up from there. I guess a little bit of an order flow read, huh? And we were not going up to my volatility target, and I saw the distribution. I don't know. I did some things right, but overall, still not super happy with my trading today. Other than that, I used my experimentation account because I knew that today was going to be difficult. So that's really good, I guess. But I'm just really disappointed in the E-mini trade. Like, I really could have taken when Kudlow came in and boosted the markets a little bit. You know, I really should have managed that better. I think that I've had some times where I saw something like that, and so it scared me out of a trade, and it ended up being a good trade. But I think that in the end, when I see fundamental news that comes in that contradicts my trade, I think that I need to take it more seriously. I think that I really try to stay in a trade too much. So that's, I think, the thing that we need to take away from today, especially if I'm in a 10-year trade, because I could have scratched almost all of those. Well, I only took 2, right? I could have scratched both of those, and I didn't. Sorry to be such a downer. It just kind of, uh, it just kind of makes me feel dumb. Anyways. And I guess another thing is that I really feel like that most of what I'm seeing in the 10-year is noise. Like I'm not really seeing any kind of signals that really have any degree of consistency for me. Isn't that interesting? Vindman to retire from military blames White House. Who cares? Federal Reserve tweets, I received a suspicious looking email that claims to be from the Federal Reserve. Is it a scam? The Federal Reserve does not communicate directly with consumers. You should be suspicious of any email, message, letters, and telephone calls that claim to be from the Federal Reserve. Good. What is driving the weak outlook for U.S. dollar? Zach Pandel of GS Research weighs in. They have a video. Now Goldman is doing. Oh, wait. No. Stop that. There we go. Turn that off. I really. Okay, we'll fix that. There we go. I'm probably gonna get I'm probably gonna get hit by the copyright police. I'm gonna have to mute 5 seconds of the video because of that. Isn't that dumb? They have a channel. Oh, they have a YouTube channel. I'm subscribing. I'm subscribed. Wait, what do they have on here? What do they got? They have 119 subscribers. Well, man, I'm late to the party. Bunch of conference stuff. Wow, they posting a lot of stuff though. U.S. dollar weakness. Well, it could be interesting. We'll see if they post any good stuff or not. Ah, more selling. Okay, so if we get below the open, and especially if I see some news, maybe we could take some shorts. Well, Well, it's not uncommon for us to come back to the open and kind of fiddle around with it a little bit. Still getting clicking though. Twitter shares quickly rise as much as 9%. What? Why? Wow. What could possibly happen that would make Twitter shares rise 9%? Oh, I know. The CEO is being ousted. That would maybe make me want to buy Twitter. That would maybe. I'm interested to see what this is. Now, on the other hand, the equity index just got killed there, right? And it's clicking a lot, meaning that there's a lot of large orders being placed on the order book, causing volatility. Now, we should take a little bit of pause because, well, the Treasury did move up 2 ticks. Maybe it's okay. Okay, so now they're gonna go for that regular session low for sure. They might try and screw me over first, but I think it looks like a pretty good opportunity. I think on this one, I'm looking for yesterday's close as kind of the safe spot. But on the downside target, it's 31.16. If this is news driven, if we're getting some coronavirus headlines that aren't hitting Twitter yet, then we could certainly get there. Zero Hedge tweets a potential crisis in COMEX gold. Hey, you guys would be interested in that one. We are all used to the bullion banks covering their shorts on COMEX by waiting until the speculators are over bullish and vulnerable to markdowns that trigger their stops. Algorithmic traders from long to short are in a heartbeat as well as they dump contracts into a falling market, speeding up the decline. We should say at this juncture that the managed money speculators are short-term attracted by futures leverage, and their gold position is often part of a wider risk strategy deployed by hedge funds. They do not intend to stand for delivery. The wider investment world taking strategic portfolio decisions does not often get involved with gold, so the COMEX gold contract has been a secular play. That's interesting. So if you're playing in gold, this is a story to read over on Zero Hedge. So they're pointing out a potential flow imbalance, position imbalance in the gold market because we've been doing this so well in gold. And if they do that, if they really dump it, then that would be a really good buy, right? Hmm. We have slowed the pace of corporate bond purchases from about 300 million per day to a bit under 200 million a day. The Leap Singh, head of New York Fed's market group, says. Okay. Not something I would expect markets to react to, but again, a negative. Okay. Do it. Go, 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 go. That's really encouraging the way that's moving. Yep. Okay. Immediately some stops. Yep. Oh man. All he had to do was just push it like even a tick and they puke. Bloodbath. This is my new favorite word for describing markets: bloodbath. Mary Kay Leonard, is that she the one that invented the Mary Kay Cosmetics line? Okay. Now we're getting the news from Twitter. Carl Quintilla tweets, "We are a new team codenamed Griffin. We are building a subscription platform, one that can be reused by other teams in the future. This is a first for Twitter." That's what's moving them? I don't know if it's I mean, that just gives me more questions, doesn't it? Okay, some volume trading there at 31.39. Probably a little bit of distribution here. No, Blackpink. Lisa went and commented on our video first. That's funny. Let's see, have we gotten any others? Yeah, if you haven't checked it out, I'll just give you guys the link here again. I'll give you guys the link here again. You know, can check it out now or after the stream. Here's the video we posted today about the implied volatility targets. So you guys that are watching every day probably already know this stuff. But you know, you go give that video a like, leave a comment, really helps the channel out a lot. And this is information that I think could be really, I mean, it's been really useful to us. So it could really help a lot of traders out. So, you know, this could be another one, you know, go and share it around and the groups that you hang out in and so forth. But yeah, you can go and leave a spammy comment. That would be fun. Or, you know, you can tell me how wrong I am about things. That's always fun too. MKL was a massive news story about 20 years ago. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that name. Well, Mary Kay is familiar, but Mary Kay Le Torino? I've never heard that before. Okay. So I'm getting a green bar. Oh, I should be more aware of the time. It's almost the European close. Google it and then you'll remember. Okay. She was a school teacher who I still have never heard of this before. It's interesting that that's people remember that kind of a story. There was this guy. Is today July 8th? No, today is July 8th. You're right. I haven't been on top of this today. Mm-hmm. Okay. Somebody was trying too hard there. I need to come up with a title for today. What should today's title be? Hasn't been a super great session. I'm really just not happy with. I would, I love trading the treasuries. I wish I had better edge over there, man. But it just seems that I am just not as in line with what the fundamental drivers are over there in the treasuries as I am in the E-mini. Well, I'm going to take a profit there. Because that's come back way too much. I'm still not seeing like the headlines. So that may not have been what I thought it was. Watch, now that I've gotten out, it'll just careen down there. I'm kind of in a difficult spot because I do think that we could hit my volatility targets, but the market seems to be incredibly constrained still. So, I kind of look at it as like, okay, so is the current market action making me think we are more or less likely to hit my expected move for the day? And right now, I think I'm going to say less. And that's why I'm kind of taking the profits a little early on these. So I'm worried about greater probability of pullback. Trump to host trade talk dinner tied to AMLO visit. I don't know what that is. Prime Minister Trudeau addresses Canadians. What the heck is this beard he's got? He has a beard now. He's been reelected. He can just do whatever he wants, I guess. Almost never see a world leader with a beard these days. Not since the World War I era. Not since the World War I era. Well, could turn back down. I'm okay with it. I think that pullback was deeper than I wanted for the trade that I was looking to catch. Because, like I said, I thought that maybe we were about to get some coronavirus headlines come through, and I'm not getting them. So I don't really have any reason to believe. Oh, okay, so now that. So that's unclear if that's positive or negative news, but that was definitely something. Okay, let's bail. Let it work its way out a little bit. Hmm. Does appear to be negative, but the market's not. It's kind of interesting. I mean, that was an impulse that I'm super surprised that we're not breaking lows at the moment. The treasuries are moving up. Treasuries are back to where we started. Okay, now they're going. Global Times tweets U.S. sanctions on Hong Kong could backfire if it imposes restrictions on the world's third largest foreign exchange center for U.S. dollars. The U.S. recent move to suspend exports of sensitive tech only has limited impact. Hong Kong financial. Okay, so was that it? That could be it. That's got to be it. Okay, so we're now into yesterday's close. Okay. There could be way more in this, but that's like I'm at my target for today. Or wait, hold on a second. Yeah, more than my target for the day. So, oh my, oh my. Is that really the news though? I don't know if that matters. I mean, I think there was a story overnight that Donald Trump that it was proposed in the administration to mess with the peg for the Hong Kong dollar. And it looks like this Global Times story here. I'll read it again. U.S. sanctions on Hong Kong could backfire if it imposes restrictions on the world's third largest foreign exchange center for U.S. dollars. U.S. recent move to suspend exports of sensitive tech only has limited impact. So our sanctions already are going to impose restrictions on that exchange. They're talking about messing with the dollar peg. That's certainly got to be a response to that. So it definitely is concerning for sure. I'm not sure if it justifies the action that we're getting or not. I'm not sure, but the market is definitely moving. So I think we have to go along with what the market is saying. It's just, for me, can it move further? I don't know. I'm unsure. We certainly though should be looking for that target down at 31.15 looks very possible now, even though it seems so far away. Seems so far away. Well, it's a pretty negative flow, that's for sure. But I have no clue if we turn here or what. Let's see. Is there any kind of... Yeah, well, we're below yesterday's low, so that's another thing. I have to say the balance in the flow certainly favors lower. I just don't have any idea of what value is here. Boom. That's pretty ugly. That's a very, very ugly. I don't know, man. I'm not too sure. This is tough. I mean, these are the situations that matter, though, isn't it? Is we get some news and we have to make our analysis. Well, we know some things. I'm just trying to suss out here. How is yeah, and that was the EU close. Oh, we haven't closed in the EU yet, so that makes things even worse. United Airlines warns 36,000 U.S. employees their jobs are at risk. Yes, I kind of expected that one. Oh, Arizona case count rises to 3,520 versus 3,352 yesterday. Oh, I hate it when they give those numbers out and they're different. Oh, here, Bots is sharing it with us too. Rise by 30,520. You got that at 1122. Well, I don't think that was the original impetus, but it may have been a reason for a move further, huh? For sure. Even though we have a good volatility target, my estimation of value here is not certain enough for me to be taking trades here. If we come back up, maybe, especially since I expect that Florida and Texas news is not going to be very good. Harvard MIT sue ICE over student visa guidelines. As long as I keep hearing it clicking, I think that we could go lower, but we do have the 16, right? 3116 below us would be a likely target. It's clearly it didn't go away when warm weather arrived. Well, I actually believe that the warm weather did have a significant impact. The rate of transmission once the weather got warmer did appear to go down. it seems that the main driver of new cases at the moment is likely. Of course, I don't think you can ever completely prove such a thing because we can just look at data and try and correlate it. But it looks like one of the likely drivers has been the protests, which is probably why you're getting a huge rise in cases, but not increase in deaths, right? Because the people that are catching it are really young and healthy people, anyways. Okay, so Arizona State Health, but now they're giving you the important thing, right? Arizona's ICU at a record 91%, up from 90% the prior day. Okay, so we're saying that Arizona ICUs could be full next week. That would be bad. That's, to me, when the ICUs are full, that is when this becomes a serious problem, and state governments are going to think about shutting things down again. Hopefully, they do it before you hit it, right? Sunday Driver Wikipedia just sanitized the Kamala Harris wiki page, assigned that she's the VP pick. I'm not sure about that, Sunday Driver. So they were certainly talking about that, I think, late last week. People were noticing that the page had been changed. And basically, there was like a huge edit war. And Wikipedia eventually came in and locked the page. But I don't know if that's means necessarily that she's the VP pick, just because I feel like that if that was what was happening, they would have announced it by now. But I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Okay, so we are getting a little bit more extended of a pullback, right? I'm glad that I wasn't clicking down in here. 35 area I could have clicked. You know where I got out at? Because I only took 4 points. 4.5 points, 5 points. So I took it to 35. That's 35 is where I got out. And there wasn't really any rhyme or reason. I probably should have kept that one, except for that I knew that I was like over $50 for the day and was nervous, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It kind of makes you wonder, because I feel like that they've been sitting on the VP pick for too long. But I remember when it was McCain, and it was so heavily anticipated, that it just seemed like forever. And then with finally one day, it finally happened, and it was like, oh my gosh, that was such a freaking Palin. Ugh. That whole episode, I would rather forget that one. That was a McCain. That election was a big mess. I was not necessarily happy. I wasn't a huge fan. I don't think that Palin was treated fairly, but I also didn't think she was a good pick. Because you know that the person that they're going to pick is going to be treated unfairly. Should know that. Was a naive choice by John McCain. He thought that because the media has always treated him with kid clubs that they would do it to him. But he failed to realize that the media will always come after you if you're against the Democrat nominee. Once the VP pick comes up, Biden's numbers will have to drop down. There's no way he satisfies everyone with that pick. Yeah, Darren McCain was a terrible human. So I think that you're right in some respects, Sunday Driver, but I don't think that let's say the personal approve disapprove of Joe Biden himself is a very significant portion of his support. I think that the support is largely I don't like Donald Trump, and he's the guy that's running against him, and there doesn't seem anything objectionable enough for me to, not pick him. Now, I disagree with that because I think that Joe Biden has done a lot of super objectionable things, particularly on the issue of race, but I'm a Republican. If you're a Democrat, They probably ignore some of those things. So I'm not sure that when he picks somebody and if it doesn't end up being a black woman and or something like that, I don't know if it will have that big of an impact. But maybe a few percentage points, sure. Maybe. Anytime. I mean, numbers seem to change after conventions, right? They do. I know a lot of people have been trying to deny that. They're full of shit, dude. The numbers change after the conventions. There's bounces off of the conventions, and then once those settle, that's the race. That's your base expectation that you should work from then at that point. Okay, so we're back to 3135. The Dems, especially the woke left, pander to anyone. Well, it's a like I was pointing out with that article from The Hill that I posted to you guys earlier. I think that is something that could be a significant impact. Is if the vice president nominee ends up being really objectionable, that could hurt him because, like I said again, it's kind of like for Democrats. Well, I don't want Donald Trump to be in charge, and as long as it's not Donald Trump and the guy that replaces him isn't freaking Hitler, I'm okay with it. That's what most of them are thinking right now. Okay. But if he does something like he picks Elizabeth Warren for VP, for instance, right? If he picked Elizabeth Warren for VP, that would give a lot of those people pause, right? Because then all of a sudden they're saying, oh, yeah, except for that Joe Biden's probably going to die in the next 8 years, and then we'll have Elizabeth Warren for president, and that would be a huge disaster. Yeah, that's why I think it matters, and it matters to markets a lot. If Elizabeth Warren is VP pick, that matters to markets a lot, doesn't it? Can you make the click indicator available for Sierra? I probably could. I don't know, Octavius. I'm super lazy. That's what it is. It's not that I'm super lazy. It's just been a lot going on. I have been working on making this available in NinjaTrader to you guys. I think I'm gonna charge like $30 or something cheap. I've given the binary to a couple of people just to test out the packaging. I'm gonna have to go back and do some stuff so that there's licensing with it and stuff. But so I kind of got that on the docket. And then once we have it out for NinjaTrader, then we could go and we could try doing it for some of the other platforms like Sierra Charts and Quant Tower. And anywhere else. If Jigsaw ever gets programming available, I'll definitely make it in Jigsaw. Because, these are things that I wish that were available in Jigsaw and aren't. So, yeah. So I could at some point. I've kind of done a test in Sierra Charts to see if I can do it, and I can. It's just there's some. How do I put this? There's a little bit of finesse to it. There's a couple of things that I'm doing that not to gloat or be too proud of myself, but I think are kind of clever, and most other programmers wouldn't think to do, and are very C# NinjaTrader specific. So when I'm porting it over to Sierra Charts, I'm gonna want to have similar things, but might require a lot of change. So it'll be a bit of work. So I wouldn't expect it like next week or something, but at some point in the future, yeah. In the meantime, I think it's a great indicator, but it's not like the end all be all of anything, right? It's just kind of useful. It alerts you to that something changed. Biden has already put a target on himself by announcing a woman in black pander. Well, yeah, that's a good point, Gary. I really don't think that you want to come in and say something like, well, this is what we think with the VP should be. And then if you end up picking somebody that's different, then there's all these people that are disappointed. Yeah, probably you just don't want to say anything if you can help it, right? I mean, that's really the way that it went with McCain. They didn't really give us much of an idea of who it was going to be at all, and then the pick ended up being completely out of left field, which could be powerful if you pick somebody that like really coalesces your base. And John McCain picking the right conservative candidate, that really could have done him a lot of good in that election. It's just that Palin did not have the chops for it. She straight up didn't. Because even though the media kind of invented a lot of stuff about her, like that whole thing, like I can see Russia from my house and stuff like that, was like, yeah, I think very unfairly taken out of context. But if she had the chops to really do that VP job, she would have known that they would take those things out of context, and she would have been more careful about what she says. When you look at what's happened in their personal lives since then, and the fact that they're not really a significant player in U.S. politics anymore, I think you have to say that the conservatives that absolutely loved her were wrong. She was a bad pick. She was a very, very bad pick. And McCain, it's possible that McCain lost the election just purely off of that. So we shouldn't say that the pick doesn't matter. It certainly can matter. I'm just thinking from the perspective of like, okay, like if he picks Kamala Harris, there are going to be too many people disappointed with Kamala Harris. I don't know. Maybe 1 or 2 points. I don't think that is significant enough to matter. You know what I mean? It will say Tina Fey was absolutely hilarious. Yeah. Oh, I remember that election well. I was back then. It's actually not as good now. Politico had some really good blogs. They had one blog that just followed McCain around and one blog that just followed Obama around. And so you knew like the play by play, everything that happened that day. So I was reading what was happening, and then I would go on Dig or on the nightly news and see how they reported it. I was always upset because it was never accurate to what actually happened. He lost it on that and being truthful about the American plan for the Middle East. Oh, I don't remember that, RJ Will. The only thing I remember about that election policy-wise was the whole 2008 crisis. Like, it basically turned into Palin, and then all of a sudden, 2008 crisis. And those two things together just totally buried him. Otherwise, I think he might have stood a good chance. But then the other thing is that, you know what? I was so upset. Should I say I was so upset? I wanted Mitt Romney to be the nominee back then. Oh, Seth. Young 20-year-old Seth, so naive. Right? I really wanted that. And, I was still like, oh, I think that Obama is a radical. I think that he could fundamentally transform this country in a way that would be really negative. I think that ended up being correct. But I look at the way that John McCain has behaved since. I look at the way that Mitt Romney has behaved since. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know what? I actually think the right guy won. I think that Obama was a better president than John McCain. I think that the United States might be in a bad place if John McCain had become president. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Oh, it's somebody, I made a blog post on my internal network and they're asking me a question about it. It's 9:40. Oh, so it's about time for me to get going. Okay. The election of Obama, no one could beat that. The country wanted that first. Yeah, I don't even think it was that. For me, I don't even think it was just that. There was I know that we want to always boil something down to like this was the one reason why Obama won, but it really was a combination of factors, right? You got to remember that 2008 crisis just completely threw politics upside down on its head, and the Palin pick was really poor, and John McCain wasn't really that good on the trail. So there's a lot of reasons, but I still say I don't think that I would be happy with John McCain as a president. I think that Obama was better. I think I was wrong, and that the public in the end did the right thing. I tend to try and trust the popular vote. So sometimes you got to take a little step back to take a step forward. I don't know. Anyways, I'm yapping. This is pulling back too far. Yeah, I went from a state with very few electoral college votes. That's another key. Anyways, this is pulled back so far that now my whole thought about if we can get to 16, I don't know. That I felt like that was a really good driver, and we're not getting there. Maybe we do by the end of the session, but we still look too constrained. So I don't think that I should be looking to run trades, and so I'm okay with what we got. I think that last one I could have gotten more on it, but eventually I did need to take it out, and I was correct to not take another trade down there because I don't have enough driver to say that we're going to go down there. But let's see how this goes. I bet you there could be more, so stay frosty, friends, and stay profitable. I will see you guys tomorrow. Oh yeah, check out the video. Tell me all of the things that I'm wrong about it. Like, I think this is a video that could be really useful to new traders. So what you guys put in the comments is going to be important, right? So they're going to come back and watch this video for years, and then they're going to go and see your comment and go, oh, okay, that gives me an even more clear idea of what Seth was trying to say. So that's it. Now, stay profitable, friends.